All right, this week's episode of One of a Kind with RVD is presented by FanDuel, and we are in the thick of the NBA playoffs. The conference finals going down right now, and my favorite, the New York Knicks, are in the mix, and they are plus 390 right now to become your NBA champion. Whether they face the Oklahoma City or the San Antonio Spurs, they are plus 390 right now. Their opponent, the Cleveland Cavaliers, which are currently down 0-2 to them in the series, is plus 4,500. So they are not heavily favored whatsoever. The Knicks, though, can still get them as a big underdog at plus 390 on FanDuel.
Rob Van Dam! Rob Van Dam! Rob Van Dam! I'm Rob Van Dam. The whole show.
From Battle Creek, Michigan, weighing 230 pounds,
Rob Van Dam. Boom. Happy Friday, everybody. Doing if you're watching live. Hey, Dom, I can't hear you.
Oh, yes, I unmuted. Oh, I muted MVP too. Boom. There we go. Wait. Boom.
Am I in?
You're in. You're good. You're good. It's my bad.
All right. Well, hold on. Let me do MVP.
Boom. There it is. Watching or listening live, it's a special day. Happy Friday, because we got a special guest, Mr. MVP, who just gave you his name in sign language.
Yes.
Happy
Yes.
I don't know if that's actually sign language. It looks right. MVP.
Hey, if you
hand signs.
If you tell me that sign language, I believe you.
Okay.
I do too. I know nothing about sign language. So it's good to be here. Thanks for coming here, MVP. Appreciate you, man.
No, thanks for having me, man. I'm absolutely pleased to be here, man. Rob's been an influence and a good guy to me for a really long time. So I'm honored to be a guest.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Like Rob said, we're live, everybody. So if you're here, whether you're tuning into rvdtv.com or on RVD's YouTube channel, be sure to hit like, subscribe. We got some of our usual here in the house. Jem the Dawn's here. He says, how's everyone's Friday? The Friday streams hit different. They sure do. Chad Driggers is in the house, too. He says, sending love and best wishes to Dom, Katie, and the twins. Yes, definitely. We got some new folks in here, too. Matt. Mouthpiece Murphy. I know Matty, he's in Australia. He sent some super chats in since he's probably sleeping right now. But thank you all for tuning in. But I thought I had no idea you guys were close friends. I had no clue about that. So how did you guys? Obviously, you met in WWE, but how did that all come to be? You guys forming a relationship?
I think that it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of those deals at first where I think Booker, was friends and gave me the okay. Like it was somebody. I think it was Booker.
Yeah, I think that sounds right, Booker.
Yeah, and usually, like if one of my good friends says, "Hey, this guy's really cool," then usually that's enough for me for a good.
Yeah.
The referral program works good for RVD.
Yeah, same for me, man. If somebody who I respect signs off on somebody, then that's good enough for me until proven otherwise. And for me, it was crazy because. When I tell the story of my entry into pro wrestling, I can't tell the story without ECW.
Okay.
And when I was in prison, I was at the work release center, and there was a correctional officer there, Daryl Davis, but he worked on the indies as prime time Daryl D. And
I remember.
I used to ask him questions because in the morning time, we couldn't leave the work release center till 7 a.m. So after you've had breakfast and everything, people would kind of mill around at the front door from 6:30 to 7, and he would bring in VHS tapes of the pay-per-views or of his matches. And one day I said, "Man, how do you guys do that shit without really killing each other, man?" And he was super cool, and we ended up hitting it off. And he was like, "Look, man, I see you out there playing basketball. You're athletic, you got some size. When you get out, if you want to learn, I'll teach you." And I was like, yeah, okay. I need something to keep me out of trouble. And around that time, I'll never forget, in prison, I used to listen to a lot of AM talk radio. And I think there was a radio show, I think it was called Wrestle Talk America or something like that. I'm not sure. It was something like that. And I was listening to it, and I hadn't seen wrestling in years. Like, the last thing I saw was when I was at DeSoto Correctional, when they used to show the abbreviated WWF show, like for 30 minutes on Sunday. And we could never watch the end of it because count time would always happen. So we'd be able to see like the first 15 minutes, and then we had to go to count. So I'm talking like the Lex Express era. Yokozuna and Lex was the last time I saw wrestling. Fast forward, I'm hearing these guys talk about this new wrestling, ECW. Everybody's calling into the show talking about ECW. And I was like, damn, what's this? And Taz was the special guest. And, I'm listening to this dude talk. I don't know what he looks like. I just hear him, being a heel, slick rapping, got that heavy Brooklyn accent. And I'm like, everybody's just talking about when will ECW be available in my area? When will it be? I'm like, man, what is this ECW phenomenon? And again, to show you how long I had been away from wrestling, because my mom used to take me to the Miami Beach Convention Center when I was in first grade. So, I grew up with wrestling. And we used to do shopping trips at Walmart where you can go pick up toothpaste and paper, toilet paper, whatever you need. And I opened up a PWI, and I saw a picture of Big Papa Pump. And underneath it said Scott Steiner. And I started laughing. I go, look, they put the wrong caption under this guy. Because the last Scott Steiner I saw, had a long mullet, and I didn't recognize this guy.
Right.
So finally, ECW became available on TNN in South Florida. And I had this little thing where I used to go to Alcoholics Anonymous on Saturday night to get out of the center. Like, a handful of, some people really needed it, and some of us would go just to get out. I'd go eat some cookies and drink some coffee and just kind of sit around. But when we would get back to the work release center, it would be in count. And they'd put us all in the day room, the TV room, while they were doing count. And there's an unwritten rule in the Florida prison system that if a television program is already in progress, you can't vote to change it. So I'd be in there and I would put it on ECW. And I remember watching it going, what the fuck happened to wrestling? Like, what is this shit? Man? I'm like, oh shit. And I'll never forget, like, that first night when guys, it was count time and guys came in the TV room and they were like, man, we don't want to watch this bullshit, old fake ass wrestling. We don't want to watch this shit. And I was like, nah, dog, we watching this shit today. And, as a matter of fact, there was one issue, like, me and the dude almost got into it. I said, dude, if you change that TV, you're going to have to run it, man. Like, you ain't changing that TV.
Yeah.
That was like week 2. By week 5, it was sold out. Like, everybody would put chairs in and put towels, to hold their space. Everybody was watching it, and everybody was like, whoa, what the fuck? Because it wasn't the wrestling we grew up on. It was this new, energetic, crazy shit that was just off the chain. And I remember early on, the guys that caught my attention, and Sabu and even Lance, like there's so many of these guys that I was just like, who the fuck are these? These guys are just doing shit I've never seen before on a level I've never seen before. And I was plugged in. And as soon as I came home, I got out July of '99. You couldn't, and I started going to a wrestling school and training, and you couldn't do anything cool without somebody screaming, EC-Dub, EC-Dub, EC-Dub.
Yeah.
And all of us young guys at that point, we're trying to get the crowd to go EC-Dub because, that's a sign off like you did some really cool shit. So Rob, and then of course the famous, just Rob's body of work to that point, the match with him and Jerry Lynn, that legendary match, just Rob just stood out as somebody that immediately I went, I fuck with that guy. And then when all the 420 shit, on the cover of High Times, and I'm like, this guy.
Speaking of, spark him if you got him.
That's right. It's 420 somewhere. It's, I think, somewhere in the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean. It's 420. So
yeah, man, I gotta hit the dispensary, man. I smoked my shit already. I gotta go pick some things up. I'm empty-handed right now. I ate a gummy though. I had one gummy I found in my bag, so at least I got that going for me.
Hey, there you
And
go.
I hate it when I find shit in my bag that I don't know is in there because that means I'm not careful. There's been so many times on the road, international even, I'm going through my bag and I'm like, what the fuck? Well, there's a bag of weed in here. And then I got to think about like, how long has this been in here? I got this 2 months ago. Yeah. I'm like, I like to think I'm more careful after getting busted over and over and over again. But I'm not all the way careful. I brought weed to Jamaica. That's you know, like that's. I didn't mean to. I threw it out when I. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that a time or two. Open up my bag and the same thing. Like, how long has it, dude? I don't even know how long this has been here. The different states and countries I've been to, and somehow I never knew. Oh, damn. Yeah, that's a big slip.
Ooh, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what. So, MVP, how old were you then, 1999, around that time?
Oh, man, I was 26.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Wow. And so, like, just that's what a really good time to get into the business, too, at that age and trying to get your.
Yeah. I was a late bloomer. Yeah. 26, I started training, right when I got out. So I was 26, turning 27.
Wow. And who'd you train under starting off?
So at the time in Miami, Duke the Dumpster Drozy had a wrestling school. And unfortunately, he was hardly ever there. But, he so the guy who introduced me to the business, who I was talking about Primetime, he was good friends with a guy named Soul Man Alex G. And Soul Man used to be part of the Soul Patrol under, what wrestling company was that back in the day? I forgot what it was. But it was Soul Patrol, Soul Man Alex G. And he trained me as a favor to Primetime. Primetime said, hey, I got this kid. He's got a huge upside. He wants to train. Primetime started training me in a ring in his sister's backyard at his sister's house. And he ended up having to take that ring down. And then he brought me over to Duke School, introduced me to Alex, and said, hey, here's the kid I was telling you about. So I never paid a dime for wrestling school. Fortunately, I was all the South Florida guys saw something in me, and they saw I had potential. And guys like Norman Smiley, Bruno Sassy, Dave Heath, who I was actually Gangrel. I was actually at work release with his little brother, Chris.
No way. What?
Yeah. So Duke the Dumpster Drozy's wrestling school, but it was Soul Man Alex G, who was my primary trainer. And then, like I said, I was fortunate to have guys like Norman Smiley polish me up, give me those finishing touches because I was a big Japanese wrestling fan. Like, my dream was to wrestle in Japan. My goal was to wrestle for the WWE. And I always liked that shoot style. I always liked the serious professional wrestling. I never really liked the ha-ha comedy stuff. So when I approached pro wrestling, the guys that I was a fan of were the guys that, were not so much the hardcore shit, but I like guys that were serious and made the shit look violent,
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
You mean like Joey Ryan's dick flip? There's something random that popped in my head.
It's funny because I won't say the promotion, but I was working for a promotion many years ago, and the owner of the promotion wanted to book me against Joey Ryan on the show. And I was like, look, man, I won't do it. And at the time, nothing had come out about Joey Ryan or anything yet, but I had no issues with Joey Ryan. And he was always a cool enough guy, but I'm like, look, I don't do ha-ha. I don't do comedy. Right. You're wasting him, booking him against me. Book him with somebody that's going to do that shit so you can, get the entertainment value out of having him. I'm not grabbing somebody's dick, man, and nobody's grabbing my dick. I don't play that shit. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, if that's what you're into, but it's just, not for me.
Don't take offense to that.
Yeah. So, but that's not my style of wrestling,
Yeah, absolutely too. And that's what's so engaging about that is the early days of ECW too. You're talking about is like seeing a dude like Lance Storm and then Taz with all the suplex and aspects like that. And then Sabu, what he's able to do, compare that with Rob. You have this whole diverse, but still this kind of like underground, like hard hitting kind of aspect of it all. You want that legitimacy to what you bring to the ring so many times. So
We think here's one way I think of the opposite sides of the spectrum here. Think of let's say New Jack or the Gangsters. They did zero wrestling, all hardcore or garbage style. And then look at someone like he mentioned, like Lance Storm or Jerry Lynn, who all they did was wrestling. They didn't even do hardcore stuff.
Right.
Those are like exact opposites.
Yeah.
But I've always said,
they all fit in ECW.
Well, I've come to the conclusion over the years that wrestling is a buffet. Yeah. There's a little bit for everybody. And when you go to the buffet, you take from the pans what you like, you put it on your plate. What you don't like, you just walk past it, And I've always said I never understood wrestling fans, that tribal mentality. Wrestling fans that will hate a promotion and say things like, "Oh, I hope they go out of business," or like, I don't like orange soda. Not a fan of it, but I don't want Sunkist or Orange Crush to go out of business. You like orange soda, drink all you want. I'm just not going to drink it, and I'm not going to say, "Oh man, you suck because you like orange soda." Like, no, I never understood that.
No, I didn't get it either. It doesn't make it. And the more competition there is, the better wrestling gets, because it's like everybody raises their sea level.
Well, it's better for the fans and for the boys. The boys and the girls. The practitioners of the craft. We're able to make more money, and the fans get a higher quality product. A rising tide lifts all ships.
That's it.
100%. We are of the same cloth with that. I created fucking a company with some partners. The partners didn't work out that well. Ended up not paying me what they owed me, and I'm like, hey, good luck. At least the boys have a somewhere to work, and that's OW. OW.
Only wrestlers, the only wrestler.
Yeah, I don't want anything bad to happen, because at least the boys are desperate too. Because they'll even work for someone like Bad Business Bobby repeatedly when he's already ripped them off, or several people that they know, and the motherfucker doxes the talent when he gets mad at them. And boys don't care. They want to be booked. They want to be in the ring. They want to get the experience and the work. So, fuck it. I wouldn't want to get in the way.
Yeah, and I get that, because I used to say all the time, when I was coming up, it used to be so frustrating, because you got these independent bookers who they develop beef with another booker, and then they're like, well, if you work for that guy, you can't work for me. Sure. And dude, you're all fighting for the same 200 people. You know what I'm saying? Like, all I want to do is have matches and get reps so I can get better. I don't have anything to do with you guys, hating each other. And so now I got to make a choice on who I want to work for. So, because you guys are mad at each other for who knows whatever. But, I understand. I get it, when the younger talent are like, yeah, he screwed me over, but, I still get an opportunity. It sucks, but I get it, Yeah.
Where did you kind of learn that, MVP, to kind of like find the balance of that? Like, hey, I want to work for shows and I want to get reps in there and in-ring, work. But at the same time, too, I got to look out for myself and my own betterment of improving who I am.
Well, that was early on, the South Florida indie scene, because being in South Florida, it's a peninsula, and I'm from Miami. I'm at the bottom of that peninsula. So it's not like being in the Northeast where, you're 2 or 3 hours from 2 or 3 shows every weekend. If you're in New York, you're right there by Philly, New Jersey, there's all this wrestling going on, and you can stay super busy every weekend. In Florida, you had 1 promotion, 2 promotions in South Florida. Then you had a 1 or 2 promotions in Tampa. Then you had a couple of promotions around the Orlando area, maybe a promotion in Jacksonville. And if, you're only working at that point, I'm only getting booked, if I'm lucky, every weekend, so I'm getting 4 actual matches a month. And then, you get this promoter is mad at that promoter. And now, well, if you work for him, you can't work. Well, you just took a whole 25% of my bookings away because you're mad at this guy for who knows whatever, and it's always some ridiculous petty nonsense. And usually these guys end up squashing it and being back cool later on or merging or, who knows. But I got that lesson very early on. And, when it used to be that, what I found is you usually had 1 promotion that was a better quality promotion that ran less. and the other promotion ran more, but it was a lower tier promotion. So do I want to have more matches for a shittier company or less matches for a better company? There were decisions to be made. And sometimes, I made a good one and sometimes I made a bad one. But ultimately, I just, I got to the point where I was like, man, screw you, man. I'm going to go work for this guy. He's always treated me well. I always get paid. And, it goes the way it goes,
Absolutely. No, that's good stuff. Super chat we have here from Galileo. He thanks for whatever monetary fund that is. 420 with MVP, aka I'm coming. Nobody can stop me. So awesome. Thanks for that, brother. Fellas, you already know what time it is. It's time to level up, and Blue Chew just dropped something crazy. I'm talking next level, championship belt, gold-plated energy. One of a kind, if you will. Blue Chew Gold is the newest innovation from the #1 chewable ED brand. This ain't your grandpa's little blue pill. No. This is the 4-in-1 beast that's setting the gold standard for performance. We're talking 2 ingredients for blood flow to keep that rocket pumping, mixed with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and connection in your brain and body. Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue and works just as little in 15 minutes. That means you can get it on quicker and stay in the game longer. Elevation without hesitation. This is peak passion and peak performance in a single tablet. And we at RVD got a special deal for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code RVD. That's promo code RVD. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And hey, we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
All right, the second bet for FanDuel this week. San Antonio Spurs. You want to get a little bit safer, feel a little bit more confident. This is going to be a tough series, though. It is a tough series already. It's tied 1-1. Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. If you want the San Antonio Spurs to win the whole thing, become the champion outright, you can get them right now at plus 210 on FanDuel.
Devin Dowling with the $5. You are in the raffle. We do have a raffle today. Real quick. 2 cards. Both will have an RVD IOU. One is of MVP right here. So an old school WE looking card there. And then the other one is RVD. So if anybody wins those, you get the RVD IOU where RVD owes you a photo and an autograph. If you ever meet him. So, Devin, your super chat said, we heard of the no weed rule WWE used to have and how Randy and Rob would pay the fines. Did MVP get hit while he was there?
It's funny. I told this story. I paid enough fines that I could have bought a new car for. And so when that shit first started, like I've been smoking weed since I was like 13, 14 years old, and
not that we'd recommend that, kids.
No, don't. Me and my son, who's 11 now, we have a deal that he's not allowed to smoke weed until he's at least 16, 17. We'll talk about it at that point, we'll have a conversation about it, but I don't recommend smoking weed at that age. But
you could still maybe get contributing to a minor if you were busted smoking with him at 16, 17.
No. I said we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have the discussion then. We're not doing anything until he's able, but we'll talk about it because he has questions. He's curious, but my thing, and I told him, I said, no, it's not good for your brain development. I told him, I'm real with my son. I told him all the pluses and I told him all the minuses. And I said, but you're too young. And if I catch you smoking weed, before you're of age, we're going to have a very serious problem. So he gets it. But in my case, I've never, when I came in, pills were still a very big part of pro wrestling. And I was never a pill guy. I never enjoyed the feeling of what do you call it? Opioids. Like, I don't like the queasy stomach. I never liked that. I like to drink. I like to smoke. And, that's about it. I've experimented with all kinds of shit. But for me, smoke a joint, have a drink, and I'm good. And initially, when they started the wellness program, I had weed wasn't included. It was just pills and hard shit. And I specifically remember the meeting where Stephanie McMahon said, hey, look, if you test positive, there's no heat. We're adding weed to the list now because all the pill heads were complaining about, well, how come they can smoke pot and we can't take pills, And Stephanie said, hey, look, we're adding weed to the list now. but it's not a suspension. If you test positive, you just pay $1,000 fine, and there's no heat with the office. You're good. And I was like, okay. Well, at that point, I was on a rocket ship. I was making more money than I had ever made in my life, and I went to Laurinaitis because I remember Derek Coleman for the New Jersey Nets when I can't remember who the coach was back then, but he had a policy that the team had to travel with a sport coat. That was the travel policy. And DC went to the coach and just gave him a blank check. And that's a wrap, you know. So I went to Laurinaitis and I was like, hey, man, so we get tested once a month, right? And he said, yeah. I said, and if you're positive, so that's 12 times a year. So can I just give you a check for $12,000 and we call it even? And, you know, we laughed about it, you know, but then a few months later, they changed their whole policy, and it was like, hey, kid, this is your 5th time testing positive for pot. You know, we got plans for you. You still test, you know, you said there was no heat for smoking, man.
Yeah.
What the hell? And then I remember when Dr. Maroon, they called everybody together, and they said, because the $1,000 hasn't been stopping anybody from smoking, we're raising the fine now to $2,500. And he specifically said, I want you guys to know we're not trying to catch you. We're not trying to set you. It's not what we're trying to do, but effective immediately. There was no grace period. Effective immediately, the new fine is $2,500. And that was at a pay-per-view. And then they texted us, they tested us the next day at TV. So I think I probably had like, because me and Randy used to joke about it. Me, Randy, and Evan Bourne. He was in that group.
Oh, okay.
And we would like compare notes to see who was in the lead for fines. Yeah. And I think that I had 11 grand, I think. And then when they started the 2,500, they got me like 2 more times. And I said, all right, man. All right, you got me, man. You got me. I'm done.
Man, that had to be frustrating though. It's just like
well, then I started smoking spice. I discovered spice.
Oh, Rob was talking about that. Yeah.
But that's before it got stupid. When it first came out, it wasn't bad. I remember the guy at the head shop said, hey, you know, I told him, hey, man, I get tested now. You know, and he said, hey, try this shit. And I bought it, and I remember I smoked it, and then I went, oh, damn, I'm high. This stuff works. Yeah. I wasn't licking the walls. I wasn't jumping off the roof. I wasn't, you know, it was just like, I was high. And I remember I brought it on the road, and me, Spanky, Santino, and Randy, I'm telling them about this stuff, and they're like, nah, that's bullshit. I'm like, I'm for real, dude. We all smoked it, and they were like, yo, where do we get this from? And it didn't take long. All these companies started, I guess, trying to outdo each other, who could make the most powerful shit. And then it got out of hand, it got crazy, and, you know, everybody's got some messed up story from somebody they know or their own experience from smoking that Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, man.
I was just going to say Mr. Nice Guy was my favorite. Yeah, and I smoked that for like 2 years, probably ish. Never ever had a problem. And then one time there was one called Devil's Advocate. Fucked me up. It fucked me up. And I put it away, and like maybe like a year later or something, I found it. And I said, I want to see if it's just that or were there other factors. And so I smoked it, did the same thing again. So it was definitely the exact fucking strain. But yeah, that was it. It was legal. You could buy it at fucking pipe stores, head shops.
Yeah.
No problem. And,
Rob,
it's stronger than weed too. Sometimes.
Some of that stuff was bad because I remember when I was wrestling in Japan, they started selling spice in Japan, and they had like lounges where you could go and you could buy spice, and you could get a pipe or papers or however you wanted to smoke it, and they had it categorized like here's the mild, here's the medium, here's the strong, and they don't play with weed in Japan. You get caught with weed in Japan, you go into jail.
Really?
Yeah. They're not just going to pat you on, slap you on the wrist and throw it away and tell you to go home. You're going to jail. So I didn't, unless you were plugged into the Yakuza or the Nigerians, you weren't really getting any good weed in Japan. And but I would smoke the spice over there. And I remember, I won't say his name, but one of the boys, he liked to smoke, and he smoked some spice, and he had a terrible reaction. He just like, guys, I'm out of here. I gotta go. and he just fucked off. So we went to his hotel room to check on him, and we knocked on the door, and he was in his underwear doing Hindu squats, like sweating bullets, just doing squats. And we're like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Nope." No, like, hey, man.
That would be me. That would be me if I fucking.
And then, after a while, it wears off, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm okay, but I'm good. I don't ever want that again." And I wanted to say, it was while I was in Japan, I never had any one of those, freak out moments with Spice, but I do remember I was sitting outside the bus at a rest stop, and I smoked a little bit. Then I remember just like my heart racing and getting like kind of dizzy and feeling bad, and like, man, I've never experienced that before. And I got on the bus and I was really anxious and uptight, and it went away. And I thought, okay. And then the same shit, I smoked it again, and I had like an unpleasant reaction. And I think that was the time that I just quit smoking Spice altogether. I said, nah, I'm done. I'll never smoke this stuff again.
Yeah. Ooh, man. I mean, like in today's world too, it's just like, marijuana and weed and everything's been more acceptable. And even in wrestling, it's like, I think the tie's been loosened a lot. Right. So it seems like if it was more like that back then, I mean, I could only imagine how better it would be for you guys at that time. And
people always talk about how cannabis would have saved so many wrestlers that died of prescription overdoses.
Yeah.
But also it caused so prohibition does turn people to way more dangerous options. But even that Spice, I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking about it was a marshmallow plant. Remember, a marshmallow plant, and they sprayed it with chemicals.
Yeah.
And that's what we were smoking, and it was so less. And I knew when I was smoking it, it was the less healthy option.
Absolutely.
But it was, it was just so convenient, and I didn't want to I gotten busted left, right, in the middle so many times. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to Florida once every 2 weeks for 2 days. I'm not gonna fuck up and bring weed for that and get in trouble. Yeah.
To show you how bad Spice actually is, when I got back, I remember they changed, WWE changed the program where if you got caught with, if you tested positive for weed, you got a fine. If you tested positive for Spice, you got suspended. That's how serious they realized how bad it was. But for me, it was crazy because, like I said, I want to tell you, man, it was maybe $15,000 that I paid in fines. Then when I came back to WWE as a producer, I walk in the locker room and everyone's sitting around with vape pens. Everyone's just hitting vape pens, and the culture had changed. I'm like, can I get my $15,000 back?
Yeah. Can I get my championship belts back?
Yeah. Can you get your how about that?
Can I have a run again on that that one? Is that all right? MVP, how was it being a producer? How did you like that?
It was weird, man, because I had to, I wasn't a producer for long, but initially it was a transition period where I had to learn that even though in my heart and soul I'm one of the boys, now I had to be the office, and I've never been the office. So, to make a point, when we were in there in my first weekend on the road, everybody's like, P, what's up? And a bunch of these guys, like the Usos, they call me Unc because, I knew them when they were kids before they got signed, when they moved to Houston to live with Umaga while they were training at Booker's. And, now they're on the road and they're stars and they're doing their thing. And I walk into the locker room and, I'm a producer, and two things happened that kind of threw me for a loop. Number one of them handed me the vape pen, and instinctively I just hit it. I'm like, oh shit, I can't do that, And I remember a handful of the guys were late. I think like Sami Zayn and Elias, and they come over to me and they're like, "Hey man, we're sorry we're late, man. We apologize. We ran it." I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, you're here. Good. And then I'm like, oh, that's why they're. Oh yeah, they're apologizing. Oh yeah, I'm office. Yeah. So yeah, but I enjoyed working with younger talent, and kind of helping with psychology and teaching. What I didn't like was the emails and the corporate aspect, and like I didn't enjoy that so much in the WWE because it's very constricting and very corporate in nature. But in other situations where I was a producer for smaller companies, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being able to contribute in a different way. And even now at AEW, I'm not they call them coaches. Mm-hmm. I'm not a coach, but I do have talent come and ask me for some insight or my opinion on promos or different things about a match, and I'll contribute where I can. I don't go around giving advice, but if they ask me for it, then I'm all too happy to give it.
How much? Go ahead. No, go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
And I think I know the answer. I'm not sure, but is like if you're working for the WWE administration, is it either so structured, or do you know how big your slice of the pie for the day is, so you don't step on other people's toes or speak too loud, in a way that like your job, what's expected from you, and how loud to squeak to get the grease.
Well, when I was there in that position, they give you your assigned match or matches. You get,
and that's all your obligation.
One or two, but they give you, and again, this is how it used to be. I don't know how they do it now, but when I was there, they give you the whole show. You get the email, and then you have to go match by match, and you have to give your opinion, your critiques, your suggestions for every single part of the show. Okay. And then you send it in, and then they would have the production meeting, and everybody would talk about it. Well, what do you guys think of this? We got this match, and everybody would save their piece or give an idea on, well, instead of doing that, I thought that maybe we could do this, or for a finish, Rob had a great idea about this, but I thought, what if we tweak that part? And so it was a collective effort where they would have the production meeting for the show. But when you walked out of there, you had one match or maybe two. I don't think I ever had more than one match. And, in terms of, what your slice of the pie was, you were very clear on what your responsibilities were and what you needed, what was wanted out of the match, what you had to relay to the talent, and what you had to get out of it. And then, once you were in Gorilla, you got the cans on, and, you're talking to the truck about, okay, here comes this, here comes that. It was part of it was fun, exhilarating, but part of it, is high stress because, as Rob can tell you, Vince, you never knew,
Yeah,
sometimes
right?
Vince is like, God damn it, that's great. And other times Vince was, God, who's the fucking producer for this shit?
Who the fuck
let
wrote
him
that?
do that? You're like, well, Vince, you told me to tell him to do that. No, I didn't. Like, oh, okay, no, you didn't. All right, Vince, cool. All right.
How much, when you would get a run sheet like that and like they'd want your suggestions and stuff like that, how much would you be thinking about, oh, this is what I think they should do, compared to like, oh, this is what Vince would like?
Well, like I said, I mean, Vince was the end all be all.
Sure.
His word was final.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pitched an idea and he liked it, he would give you credit and go, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go with that, Mm-hmm. And if he didn't, it was just like, no, we don't like that. I don't want to, or sometimes he was that, that's a good idea, but that's not what I want for this,
Mm-hmm.
So, you had clear direction. It was just sometimes he would forget what he directed you to do.
Right. Which had to be frustrating.
Every producer that's ever worked there has a story. I bet my life. Anyone who has ever been a producer can tell you a story where Vince clearly told them to do something and they did what they were told, and then Vince would forget that he told them to do that and cuss them out for doing what he told them to do. And then I dealt with it. I've seen it happen to other people, and it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time.
No, right?
This was funny too, because like just the way he was, like he would yell at you. Like he was, he was a yeller. He'd lose his cool and he would yell at you. And then 30 minutes later, it's like that shit never happened. He would talk to you, everything was fine. He'd talk to you and, and I'd be scratching my head like, I thought you were mad at me. No, he wasn't mad. He was just upset at that shit at the moment. And that was 20 minutes ago. Now we're dealing with this now. I'm like, oh, okay, And once you understood that, once you figured it out, then, okay, all right. The first time you're getting yelled at, you're like, oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm fucking fired.
Yeah. But you know what, though? I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Who was it?
I won't do that because I respected them a great deal. But let's just say that my heart was broken by some producers that would tell me to do something when I was talent. Mm-hmm. They sent me out there to do something very specific. And then I did it. And when I came back, Vince was pissed off and he'd take off the headset and MVP, why the fuck would you do that? What? And the producer who told me to do it is standing right there with his head down. And, and I'm looking at him like, you going to speak up? And it happened to me twice with two different producers. And I remember like, and after a couple, I'm not going to stooge. I'm not going to say, well, he told me to do that. And if you had done that, Vince would have got mad at you anyway for being a snitch,
Right.
I just, then I looked over and, he's looking at the ground. I'm like, you know what, Vince, you're right. That was a dumbass idea. That was really stupid, Vince. I'm sorry that I did something so dumb, And then, afterwards, because this was back in the old day, Rob, you remember when you had to go up the steps for Raw, it was like in that second level. And, we came down the steps and they, all right, guys, that's on me, my bad. And why the fuck did you say that shit up there? Because they were scared to lose their job. And, these are guys that were in their, later in their years. And at this stage of life, if they're not working in the wrestling business, and I don't say this to be dismissive, but, with they're selling cars or selling insurance or something, or, it's so it was a bad catch-22 for them to be in, worried about losing their job. But at the same time, it was like, damn, dude, I don't believe that Vince would fire you for making a bad call in that situation. The Vince that I knew, if anything, he'd be mad at the moment, but then afterwards, I think he would respect you for stepping up and saying, that was on me.
Look, I did that.
Won't happen again. So.
Yeah, that was me. Rob, did your mentor, Terry Taylor, ever do that to you as a producer?
I'll tell that story. So
tell me, have you heard this story, MVP?
So many in my mind is everything he's saying. Like I've seen it so many times, even way back to when the whole original Mr. Monday Night angle with the invasion in '97, when that came to a boil, because I thought I was there for ECW's betterment to get them over on WWE's stage. And then all of a sudden I find out that
97 or 07?
No, 97. We did an invasion. Yeah, we did an invasion in 97 where ECW came in on WWE. I wrestled Jeff Hardy, Too Cold Scorpio.
Okay, see, I wasn't out yet. I didn't get out till 99, so I missed that. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
This is right before.
So, but I'm there. But so Paul is telling me and anyone else who's with me, we don't know how long this is going to last. Watch your back. They don't want us here. As soon as you smell something funny, say the word, boom, we're gone. We're out of here. And then like after a few weeks in, now they want me to, I've been beating their guys, which is incredible because I'm there as an outsider. Mm-hmm. And it's great for ECW. And then all of a sudden they want me to do a job to one of their guys. And I'm teaming now with Lawler against two of their guys and headbangers. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on or whatever. Anyway, yeah, because you haven't heard this, MV, so I'm telling you. But anyway, it came to a point where I went to Paul and I was like, Paul, this doesn't really feel right. What do you think? And he's like, you want to go? Let's go. I'll get my bag right now. We're out the back door. And I was like, I'm asking you for advice. And the boom, 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 boom. And he's like, just say the word. And I was like, fuck, man. I don't feel like I should do that. And so we went to the office. This is the first time that I talked to Vince after I'd already been there on the, 4 or 5 times, whatever. And then and I'm telling Vince, I don't understand where my direction is going and how that's helping ACW. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a WWE wrestler. I'm here as Mr. Monday Night from ECW, and it seems like that's fading away. You're talking about it less. And he said, well, Rob, I wouldn't have had you on my television if I didn't plan on you staying here in the WWF. And I was like, what? I had no idea. Didn't even think that was even talked about anywhere. And I turned around and looked, and Paul's over there talking. I can't remember if it was Bruce or Jim. I think it was Bruce and Paul, and they both did that look you're talking about where they look down, they both look down at the ground. And I'm looking at them, and Vince is like, oh, I see you as being a baby face long-term, an aggressive baby face. And I was like, and I kept looking over at Paul, and him and Bruce would just like be looking down, talk. Anyway, point is, there's so many times, but the Terry Taylor thing is just he was in WWE as a agent for a little while, and it seemed from my perspective as if he decided in his search for validity that RVD would be a good project, because I was coming late, I was going out smoking in my car and whatever, and so like one day we're down by the ringside talking about the match that we're going to have. And Terry's saying, they want to roll Lance in, and it's like a 6-man. And Lance, when he gets rolled in, can I cover him when he gets rolled in and steal the pin? Some shit. Sure, I can do that. I go out and I'm smoking. And when I come back in, it started at the fucking door. Like, the first guy that I saw is like, hey, Terry Taylor's looking for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, that's weird. I just talked to him a little bit ago, and I keep walking. And then the next guy, Tony Gurria, hey, Terry Taylor's looking for you. And I'm like, okay, fuck, and I keep walking. And then Michael Hayes, hey, have you seen Terry Taylor? He's looking for you. And everywhere, I keep walking. Everybody's telling me Terry Taylor. And I'm like, fuck, and then I go out, and then Terry's in the gym so everyone can see him, and he's being very animated with his body expressions. Rob, where have you been? Like, I've been looking for you. We want to know, if he could boom and rolls in, can you cover him, boom, as soon as he gets in? And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, yes, I can do that. And we just talked about it a couple hours ago or something. And he goes, oh, then why am I telling you now? I said, I think you're trying to seek validation like most of the agents do and trying to look busy. Yeah. And so at that, and then I went and I left and I went to everybody, every agent, everyone. Hey, have you seen Terry Taylor? Tell him I'm looking for him.
Tell him I'm looking for you, Terry.
Yeah. It's sometimes, man, the wrestling business, and it doesn't matter what company you're in, because, no matter what, the wrestling business, first of all, it's an ego-driven business. Everybody's, pushing to be the best.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be number one.
Sorry to interrupt, but totally, I'm glad you're hearing this from somebody else besides just me. He's going to say what I say every week, every promo. Your agenda is to say I'm the best. No one can beat me. This is why. Yeah.
And I've always appreciated, I'm honest sometimes to a fault, to my detriment, and I've got a reputation for being a guy that doesn't bite his tongue. And, that's worked for me, but it's also worked against me, because you're never, ever going to hear about me talking shit about behind somebody's back. Or I always wanted to get ahead by showing how good I am, by showing what I can contribute, by showing, hey, I'm a talent that should be elevated. I never wanted to get over by putting somebody else under or burying somebody. And sadly, it doesn't matter what company you're at. It's a very Game of Thrones type business. There's all kinds of subplots and backroom meetings and this clan against this clan and who everybody's vying for the throne. And then you got those people that are just like, hey man, I'm here to be the absolute best that I can be. I'm going to do the best that I can do. And, leave me out of all that other shit,
Who have you found to be had the best mentality like that overall, like in the business that you kind of ran into?
Oh, man, there's a lot of guys through the years that, were like that weren't the manipulators, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob's a shining example of that. Like I'd never heard about Rob. I always say, I love to say that my reputation speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. There's nobody anywhere in the business that's ever going to tell you MVP was talking behind your back. Because if I say it about you, I'll say it to you. And if somebody comes and says, hey, MVP, did you say this about me? Yeah, I said it. Or, no, I didn't say that. Who told you that? Let's go see them right now,
Yeah.
So, so through the years, the guys that I knew that were like that, were, like I said, guys like Rob. I've never known Booker to be like that. You know what? I hate to say it, but the cool guys. Just to simplify it, the cool guys.
Probably why we are attracted to each other. With a similar vibe. But I would say you're not going to hear anybody say that RVD is full of shit. But Bad Business Bobby, he'll tell you because he's already gone out and said that. So I got one bad Yelp review so far. In my life.
Nah, one of the things that I love about Rob, it's become mythical, folkloric in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a hand.
Oh yeah.
Pick a hand.
It gets brought
the
up.
respect that I have for that,
Yeah, right.
I got nothing but respect for people who conduct themselves that way,
But what a good way to handle it too. Go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just say this because back to what we're talking about because I was thinking about this, doing some inner searching and shit and writing stuff down, and I think that that people that are attracted to me or my image to them is the same reason that other people are turned off by me, and that's the fact that I'm not afraid to have an unpopular opinion. And that's something that on this show I talked about so much around the Roger Jackson incident. The whole fucking internet mark community had torches, and we're storming the fucking castle because somebody had a different opinion than them, when in fact, I probably didn't. But I just wasn't afraid to say I can see that how that led to that, and anyway, it's not being afraid to have an unpopular opinion is something that a lot of people, it gives a lot of people reason to not be real because they are afraid of it right there. Yeah.
And it's funny because when all that went down, I never met Roger, but I've met Quentin Jackson a few times. And he was always super cool. And for a while, like early on in the Pride days, he was one of my favorite fighters. Like I loved that dude. Yeah. And I remember when we were in Canada and I was hanging out with Tommy Dreamer when he fought Chuck Liddell. And I was in the bar with all my Canadian money, taking all the bets I could because like I'm a Chuck Liddell fan. I like Chuck Liddell, but I just knew that Rampage was going to beat Chuck. And I had all that Canadian Monopoly money in the bar. But so, I was a little biased, but I also had been through the system when I was a juvenile and, they put me into the adult system. So I kind of have an idea of how the system works. And I heard, and I was reading all of these people talking about, attempted murder. And he should go to prison for the rest of his life. And I said, that's not how the system works. A lot of you are going to be real disappointed when this ends up with him with probation and, maybe house arrest or something. And I didn't say it publicly. I didn't address it. But I was just like, yeah, okay. Like you said, they're carrying the torches. Everybody's out for his head. And, by law, what he did was not attempted murder. By law. Your opinion, your feelings may feel like it was attempted murder, but by law, that wasn't attempted murder. But I didn't say anything about it except, in small circles. But I saw, the mob, and I'm like, yeah, assault, battery, but that wasn't attempted murder. And I think the case was finally, the disposition of the case was that he got probation. And I was like, yeah, that's what was going to happen. I knew that's what was going to happen in that situation. Now,
so he's not locked up. I thought he was.
No. He got. I think he got maybe. I don't know if he got like some kind of home, the band or something. But I know he got probation. Now, what's going to happen in civil court? That's different. I don't know if this dude's going to go after him and sue him. And, that's a whole nother conversation, how much money it might cost him. But in terms of him going to prison for the rest of his life, like some people were saying, like, no, man, no, that's not going to happen. So I get where you're coming from.
Apparently, yeah, you're right, MVP. He took like a plea deal. I'm looking here. He will pay $81,000 in restitution. Yeah, for 2 years of and serve 2 years of formal probation. So that's what he's got for him. Mm-hmm.
So see, look, I just covered it. I said, some kind of civil shit where he's going to have to pay a lot of money and probation.
Yeah. How about that? Oh no, but that's
if he loses the civil suit, right?
I don't. Well, I mean, 80-some thousand in restitution. I don't know if that's enough for. I can't remember the guy's name who he banged up. I don't know if that's enough for that guy to go, hey, I'm good, we're done. Or if he's going to go further, because that was his adjudication, his restitution.
That's probably going to be based on his people that advised him. If enough people say, dude, this money's yours, go get it.
Yeah.
Just like when you get divorced and the bitch is listening to all their friends, like, no, you should definitely fucking do one.
Yeah.
The restitution goes back to not into the system, but goes back to the victim?
It depends on the circumstances. Like restitution, if you damage the property and there was like, $5,000 in damages, that restitution goes to the person. So in the restitution, I don't know if that was for his hospital bills, if he had 80 grand in hospital bills or something like that, if that's what that's for. So it would go, was it Psycho Stu? Is that what the guy's name was?
That's it, Psycho Stu.
Yeah. So I don't know if that goes to him for his medical bills and whatnot, but in a civil case, that's where he sues Raja for, pain and suffering or whatever the case may be. And in that, I don't see, I'm not a legal expert. I just have experience with the system. I don't see a way that he wins that, like, for example, OJ beat the case that he murdered somebody, but he was found civilly liable for like $30 million or something. So, and that money goes directly to the victims.
Wow. Yeah. How about that?
Are you saying that you think that Raja's response to Stu hitting him on the head was disproportionate to the attack? I'm just joking.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying is that for that 80 grand for the courts to say $80,000 in restitution, usually that money goes for whatever damage. So I'm guessing, I don't know. This is just a guess. I'm guessing that must go towards his medical bills or something like that. I'm sure he had to go to the hospital for quite a bit. We all know if you don't have insurance, which many indie wrestlers don't, that's a fuck ton of money to have to pay, so that's probably for the damage that was done in him, his care and treatment after. Now, whatever, if he does pursue it civilly, then, whatever he's going to get would be like, for his pain and suffering, loss of wages, that kind of shit. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Hope you're healing up, Stu.
Yeah, hope all's good. Yeah, I haven't heard an update on him at all. So yeah, absolutely. We'll have to touch base with oh my gosh, who was it we had on the show here, Rob? What's it? Oh my god, why am I blanking on his name?
Was it Katie?
No, not Katie. The guy that saved him. The guy that saved him. Why am I blanking on his name?
Save two.
Saved Psycho Stu. Remember he came in.
Malo, Doug Malo.
Yeah, Doug Malo. Mm-hmm. We'll have to. I'll have to follow up with him and see what's up. Cool. We did get a couple super stickers. I'll enter you in Gamer Play Game. I found out she lives exactly like a mile away from me, literally a mile away from me. How about that? And she won the prize. Yeah, so I'm gonna bike your prize down to you, actually, Gamer Girl. How about that? Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I saw in the chat room, Jim the Don wants to know, are there any good wrestling schools near Vegas area? And FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling, has been there forever. That's the main one that has the connections. Everybody uses his ring when they're in town and want to work out, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. There's a couple more.
I think Arya Davari just opened the school too, didn't he?
Yes,
I did hear that. I don't have the info on that.
Yeah, I don't have the info, but Arya Davari, for those of you that don't know, is Dara Davari, Sean Davari, his little brother. And I've actually done a show once for FSW, and they let me use their ring one time when I was out there for the IBJJF World Championships, just to get a little workout. So I got a lot of respect for FSW. They treated me well, but Sean and Dara Davari, Arya Davari, those are two guys that really know the game, man. They know ball. I respect them both for their minds and their ability. So that's another option as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there might be one more, but I don't have the info on that from Beast, maybe. There was a guy named Beast that had a school in the mall, and I think that moved. But anyway, at FSW, FYI, dude's name is Joe DeFalco that you want to talk to. Good luck.
There you go. Heck yeah. And yeah, to MVP, your point, Arya is great. He's obviously a good wrestler, but he hasn't got to showcase a lot of his personality and charisma, and he's got a lot of that too. And I think
he does. I like him a lot, man. It's funny because his older brother is a good friend of mine, and now that we're at AEW together, it's funny like hanging out with my friend's little brother periodically, who's a cool ass kid, so it runs in the family, because they're both really cool dudes.
You know who packs some power? Is RVD. That's right. You think about his movesets, he's got that Van Daminator, he's got that 5-star frog splash, and he's Mr. Monday Night. He's all about power in the ring and out of the ring. And you can hold the power too when you use Morgan & Morgan. That's right, Morgan & Morgan. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/RVD or dial pound law. That's pound 529 from your cell phone. That's FOR thepeople.com/RVD or pound law. That's pound 529. This is a paid advertisement. Absolutely. Somebody was asking in the chat, who do you liked working for better, Vince or Tony? I want to pitch it to you in this way. Like, what's the differences that you like between Vince and Tony?
So dealing with Vince, for me, I have to say this, like Vince, remember when I was 16, I went to prison for armed robbery, and I did 9.5 years. And when I got out, society wouldn't give me an opportunity to earn minimum wage because I was a convicted felon. You got to check the box. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? So I couldn't earn minimum wage in most cases because nobody would hire me. But I served my time, and I paid my debt to society as the social contract is supposed to go. And Vince McMahon gave me an opportunity to become a star, and a significant amount of television time that was given to me, and I got an opportunity to social redemption. Because if not for MVP and WWE, I'd still be number 190197, just an ex-convict. So Vince gave me a chance. I'll say that my relationship with Vince, was a very professional one. He and I never got to be really close. My second go round, that was the first time he gave me his number, and we actually would speak. Because the Hurt Business thing was real hot during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So my feelings for Vince are kind of complicated. Because I can't sign off on a lot of the shit that he's known for having done, or he's accused of having done. Whether he did it or not, I don't know. That's for the course to decide. But I do know that WWE would always talk about being a family. We're a family. We're a family. And then, a week before Christmas, you get cut.
Right.
So I'll say working for Tony genuinely cares about the wrestlers, his wrestlers, his company, his level of passion, his fandom for wrestling. Yeah, it's a different vibe because WWE, it was very corporate. It was the walking on eggshells, so to speak. It was just a different vibe. Whereas AEW is completely relaxed, man. There's no tension backstage. There's nobody worrying about, am I going to get cut this week? And Vince was only accessible to certain people. And if you wanted time with Vince, you had to put in a request to get time with Vince. And if you mattered enough, then maybe you could get an audience with Vince, And if you were high enough on the totem pole, you could just knock on the door and walk right in, At AEW, everybody has access to Tony. Tony will make time for you, and he'll talk to you, and he'll hear you out. And he's almost too nice.
Yeah.
So it's in one case it's working in an environment that was very, very, very stiff, very, very tight, very corporate, versus an environment where everybody's laid back and everybody's relaxed and everybody's having fun. So you got two billionaires that couldn't be more diametrically opposed from one another.
How about that too? It's just so weird to think about. Yeah, two different billionaires, and you're getting those two different personalities. It's what a wild business wrestling is.
Yeah, they could not be more different.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet. Yeah, no, and the thing is too, it's like people will be critical of either product, so many of the times, but I don't think people really consider all the inner workings that go into a lot of the aspect and the relationship that's get formed, like, and particularly, you hear about things with Tony and how caring and generous he is to some people that are either going through physical ailments or certain things like that. And he doesn't tout about it or anything like that. You just hear about it later on.
Yeah.
So that's what's a great aspect of it all too.
And I was talking about this a little earlier. I don't understand the vitriolic tribal behavior.
Right.
I love AEW. WWE sucks. Oh yeah. Well, I love WWE and AEW sucks. Dude, I don't really like. I don't really care for McDonald's, but I don't hate McDonald's. If I prefer Five Guys, or I'd like a flame broiled Whopper over a fried Big Mac. But I'm not mad at McDonald's. I'm not angry at McDonald's. I just don't eat it. And then sometimes, hey, you know what? It's been a while. Let me have a quarter pounder. Let me, I just don't understand the tribal hatred. And you read some of this shit online, and people hate your wrestling company. It's like, dude, it's wrestling. It's entertainment. Have fun. Like, relax, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You think McDonald's a bad Yelp review?
No, I don't. It's like, hey, man, I prefer other burgers over McDonald's, but I don't say McDonald's. Oh, McDonald's sucks, man. I prefer to go across the street.
Yeah, they get a little.
Five Guys. I think Five Guys is my favorite fast food burger if I'm going to have one. I personally think In-N-Out is overrated.
Okay.
I don't think it sucks. I don't disparage In-N-Out. Oh, you guys, your burger sucks. Your fries are trash, man. Animal style is stupid, man. You're like,
this hot chocolate's bullshit.
You know, like I just don't care for it. You know, hey, you want to go to Five Guys? You want to go to In and Out? Is the whole car wants In and Out? Sure, let's go to In and Out. There's something on the menu I'll get. You know, like, no, man, I'm not going to. I hate that place, man. Like, it's not that serious, man. It's really not that serious.
To that, for anyone listening, my life got way better when I started spending a lot more time loving and a lot less time hating.
Yeah.
Hey, ain't that the truth, man?
There's a lot to be said for that, for sure.
Love is the answer, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very much is. Absolutely.
And like I'm like when it comes to telling people, like friends, that you love them, like I think I could tell MVP, say love you, bro, but usually it's really awkward, for me, like with dudes and stuff, like I guess it depends on who it is.
Yeah. And as I've gotten older, you know, I've become way more comfortable with who I am and understanding life a little better. So, you know, telling somebody that I love them now is a lot easier for me to do than it was, 20 years ago. And Rob said, hey, man, I love you, bro. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There was once upon a time that if I said I loved you, you were somebody exceptionally close to me, and it was, you were, blood family or whatever. But now I realize that, there are levels of love, and there are lots of people that I love, and there's people that I have an extreme dislike for, Right. But I try to do a lot more loving than I do hating. And
even if you can't tell them, it's a big step just telling yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I realized with a lot of my friends that and people that I used to, have the stiffest matches with, and used to be in that competitive state of mind where I was like, man, fuck these guys, whatever. And then I don't know, say Bubba Dudley for no, but there's just a lot of guys in that, where now, it's like, man, I love seeing that guy, you know what I mean? When I run into him and shit, and it's like, telling yourself that and realizing that just it causes you to vibrate in a higher frequency, and it attracts more love to you. And that may sound, I don't know what it sounds like, but it's true. So less time hating, because otherwise that attracts negative shit to you.
Somebody told me something a long time ago that, Rob, the term that I use for that is woo-woo shit, like the woo-woo shit, the spiritual, I love you. But somebody gave me an analogy a long time ago that I thought, damn, man, that's pretty heavy. And they were saying, like, when you have that kind of that hatred for someone, it's like you swallowing poison.
Yeah.
To hurt somebody else, you're right. Carrying that. And that's not to say that I'm not working on that. Like, there are some people that I fucking hate, and I'm working on that to not hate these people. But when people wrong you in a certain way, it's, sometimes it's a process to go, hey, let me woo-saw and let that go, because I'm only hurting myself carrying that vitriol for someone, So
it's better to get the meter to go like, bro, it's better to get the meter to go to zero, because like you love, could really care less, whatever, and then like around zero. This is hard to fucking do here.
I know with
I'm not taking a field sobriety test here. Anyway, you get to go to zero, because when you think about hating, it's actually like spending extra energy past not giving a fuck, and there's people that I used to hate, and then I think, well, would I go out of my way to wish something bad would happen to them? No, fuck no. Do I even care? No, I don't even care anymore. So I got so then eventually you get to where you don't harbor any feelings much at all for them, and you can still label it as hate just for communication and making it so people understand and be like, oh yeah, I hate that fucker. But inside, you can change it.
My ex-wife taught me a long time ago something that was pretty profound. She said, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
Ooh,
Yes. Ooh,
And I was like, whoa.
yeah, I like
Because
that a lot.
when you hate, you're still very, very heavily emotionally invested.
right.
Mhm.
Whereas indifference, that's worse than hate, because if you got an ex-girlfriend that hates you and you can see she's still emotional, but pass that, Rob. Let me get that.
Yeah, pass it up.
You know what? To change the subject real quick, in my career, I have only wrestled high twice.
Really?
Because I like to quote Clint Eastwood, a man's got to know its limitations. I'm not a guy that can wrestle high, because I don't like to do activity high. Like when I do jujitsu, like high rollers, like all the jujitsu guys like to get high and roll. I don't like to exert myself when I'm high. I want to kick back and watch some cool shit on TV, listen to some cool music. The only exertion I want to do when I'm high is have sex. That's it. I don't want to fight. I don't want to wrestle. And also, I know that I forget shit. I slow down. I don't perform at my best when I'm high. So I would never get in the ring and potentially hurt somebody or hurt myself because I forgot a spot or my reaction time was slow, because that's how it affects me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you also not smoke before you work out?
No. I don't like to do that. I know a lot of guys do, but I tell people all the time, afterwards, I'm smoking like a Navajo chief, But early in my indie career, I had like a little goofy match that I had to do with somebody, and I got high, and it wasn't bad, but I just remember thinking like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do this again. It was okay. And I wrestled Rob once. Rob and I have only had one match in our careers. And we touched a few times at WWE, I think Survivor Series or something. We had a spot or two, but we only had one match, and it was for a West Coast indie company.
ECW.
Yeah, there you go. And I remember Rob calls me outside to talk about what we're going to do. Just put an outline together and do some shit. And he said, "Hey man, you want to hit this?" I'm like, "Nah, Rob, I don't." And I felt kind of embarrassed to tell Rob, like, "Yeah, I don't really like to smoke before I wrestle." And Rob's like, "It's me, bro." And I was like, "All right, fuck it, Rob. But you got to carry me, man. If I fuck up, I'm gonna need you." And man, I was higher than giraffe pussy, man. I remember fucking. We had a good match. I think I forgot something, and Rob covered it for me, and everything was fine. But I was like, okay, Rob is probably the only person that I would feel safe wrestling high. That I would be comfortable in a situation wrestling high, because I'd just be like, "What are we doing now, Rob? I can't remember. I forgot."
If anybody gets better, it's RVD.
Where'd you get higher than draft pussy from? Because Bruce Jingles acts like he wrote that shit.
No, man. Who did I hear say that first? I think I heard Baby Bash say that first.
That motherfucker, I'm calling him out.
You call him Bruce Jingles?
Right here, Bruce. Yeah.
That Bruce Jingles is a buddy of mine. I like Bruce, but Bruce was not the first person I heard say that. The first person I think I heard say that was Baby Bash.
How about that?
Baby Bash likes to say, "Don't panic, it's organic."
Okay. Well, I think that if somebody uses a joke on stage, that implies that they wrote it. So, I haven't had the conversation with them about it. I didn't know anyone else said it till just now. So,
The higher than giraffe pussy, I don't consider that a joke. I consider that saying, because but that thing Bash is the first. Was that?
It works on stage for him. He says it, and then people pop.
Yeah. Well, cooler than a polar bear's toenails, or whatever the colloquialisms. I don't know who said it first, but everybody says it. So, I don't think Bruce was the first person to say it, but I think that's one of those community things that everybody has access to, and nobody can really take credit for inventing that term.
Yeah. I'm going to use that in my everyday conversation at Whole Foods now, too.
Yeah, he's gonna say, excuse me, miss, can you get that box of soup down? It's higher than a draft pussy.
Higher than a draft pussy, ma'am. Thanks. I can't reach those apples. MVP, I can't let you go without talking about what is your top favorite Steely Dan album going on?
Oh, man. Oh. You see, the problem is, and then just for your fans, for your viewers, I've seen Steely Dan 11 times.
Holy shit, that's great.
Great. The only band that I've seen close to Steely Dan is Fishbone. I think I've seen Fishbone like 8 or 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen Agnostic Front like 6 times. But Steely Dan is probably the band I've seen the most. And I love their music. And they had a run, man, with Gaucho, Asia.
Groucho Marx.
What's that?
Groucho Marx.
Yes.
Not Groucho, Gaucho.
Oh.
Gaucho.
Who is the Gaucho amigo? Why is he standing in your spangled leather poncho?
Oh, that's a great tune.
And your elevator shoes. Bodacious cowboys such as yourself will never be welcomed here. High above the Custard Dome.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Rest in peace, Sabu.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Royal Scam is it's tough, man. It depends on what day. It's the Royal Scam, Gaucho, and Asia are my that's my trifecta of and it just depends on what day, man, because those are my 3 favorite Steely Dan albums. And then Donald Fagen, his solo stuff. The Nightfly.
Nightfly is amazing.
The Nightfly is one of my all-time favorite albums. I'm a huge fan.
Man, me too. Big time. I grew up. They're my all-time favorite band. So I only got to see them once. I saw them once in Philly in 2013, and that was it. So
I saw them in Philly at the Met for my birthday a few years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, it was super cool. And I love telling this story because at the time, I was in the elevator and I was with my ex-girlfriend. Loving an elevator. This guy walks into the elevator and he's got a lanyard, a Steely Dan lanyard, and I saw, man, you headed to the gig? And he goes, yeah, man. And I'm like, cool. I said, what do you do? And he goes, I play drums. And I went, Keith Carlock? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh, man, dude, listen, man. And then I start gushing, like, man, the first time I saw you live, I was in Redmond, Washington, and you guys played Asia, and then you did Steve Gadd's drum solo, and then then I caught myself, and I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, man. I don't get to be a fan that often, It's usually the other way around. And my ex-girlfriend, she was like, I wish I had a camera, because I've never seen you like that in my life. Like, you were fanboying out. And that drum solo in Asia, Steve Gadd just went ham on that. And it's my favorite part of the show when they play Asia and Keith Carlock goes fucking ballistic on those drums and he kills it. And Wayne Shorter originally played the saxophone on that. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the saxophone player now, but when he comes in playing sax over Carlock's drums, and I remember the first time I saw them, we were in Redmond, Washington, and that's when weed was just starting to get legal, and it was legal in Seattle.
Yeah.
It was Washington State, and man, I had smoked some really good stuff, and I bought front row tickets, and I just remember it was surreal to me, just because now the sun had set, it was night, and just the whole experience of it, and just watching Carlock go ham on those drums. And every time I'd see Steely Dan after that, I would get excited in anticipation for Carlock. And then, when I finally met him in person, dude, I was the biggest fucking fanboy. And And he turned out to be a really nice guy. Since then I've kept in touch with him. We message periodically, and that was a moment for me to be a big fan. To be a fan and just to be like, oh. So I understand when wrestling fans come up and they appreciate you. They've watched you. The joy that you've given them from matches and whatnot. But I just not too many times that I've had that with, entertainers of whatever that I've been a fan of. And that was one of those moments. But I want to throw this to Rob real quick because I specifically remember him telling a story about the guy that had the RVD Sabu tattoos. And Rob said, yeah, I see the tattoo. And I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now I've seen many. That might have been when the first time I saw one, but now I've seen many. And sometimes fans have me autograph on their arm.
And then they tattoo on the autograph.
They say they're going to, so
I bet they do.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Yeah, they probably
unless it wipes off.
Yeah, then that's a question. Rob, have you ever got to? I don't know if I ever asked you this. Have you ever kind of fanned out on somebody that
I knew you were gonna ask me that, dude.
Yeah,
I was thinking in my mind, if he asks, I'm sure that I probably have, but I don't know who. So for me, my answer is going to be when I was a kid, I did that to all the wrestlers, I would fucking stalk them. Walking out of the Kellogg Center, they had to cross the street to get to the parking lot where their cars were. And they had to deal with me and my friends taking pictures of them like paparazzi and asking them questions, and how come, oh man, you almost had him beat. The ref didn't see it, but I saw it. He cheated, and so I know what that's like. And I'm sure there is probably somebody that I would, but I don't know who that would, no one comes to mind. I don't know.
I was trying to think of, and I always joke around, or half joking, cannabis and concussions. My memory is not what it used to be, but I was trying to think of God, man, what the legendary weed strain developer from back in the day. God, I can't think of his name.
Who was the guy you mentioned last week, Rob?
You don't mean Jack Harrer, right?
Jack Harrer. That's what I was thinking of. Jack Harrer. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, Rob, you ever met Jack Harrer?
Yeah, he was a mentor. He was a mentor of mine. Absolutely. I used to, I met him down there at Venice Beach, and I got to hang out with him and soak up a lot of knowledge. And he followed my career for a while. There'd be a while I wouldn't see him. Then I'd see him at an advocating get together, something cannabis related. And he would say, hey, you've been doing great, and I'm like, oh man, you've been watching? Because, he was watching me rise up and stuff. And that was really cool. And then he had the stroke, and it got harder and harder to understand, what he was saying when he was talking. But a lot of people don't know it wasn't just a strand of weed, but Jack Harrer was a real dude. And he has a book, which I just saw mine in the storage shed that I was in a few days ago. I don't think I grabbed it, but it's thick like a phone book. It's called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. He was the purpose of the book, and what he was always advocating, preaching to people was that there's over 5,000 uses for the plant of cannabis, and that the prohibition was all based on money and conglomerate businesses that wanted to keep hemp products out because they were most of them were inferior in producing and in quality of end product as well. So anyway, Jack was really cool. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah, Harry J. Anslinger was the one who was at the tip of the spear, and primarily for people who don't know, and Rob knows all about this, it was because the newspaper magnate
William Randolph Hearst.
Hearst, thank you, Hearst.
Oh, nice.
You know, he owned hundreds of thousands of acres of trees, forestry, and hemp would undermine his newspaper business and his forestry, and just the money in that. And I think the DuPonts were part of that as well. So there was very, very big money involved in suppressing hemp and the hemp products, and of course the medical industry, because cannabis and its derivatives are so valuable. They were like, no, that's stepping on our money. So Harry J. Anslinger, one of the famous quotes, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know it word for word, but Harry J. Anslinger says something to the effect of, cannabis makes colored men feel that they are on par with white men. That's an actual quote. Go look it up. And I'm paraphrasing it, but the whole term marijuana came from Anslinger and trying to racialize cannabis to turn white people off to it for legal reasons. There was Reefer Madness, that ridiculous, I have it on DVD, that ridiculous propaganda movie, and, raving bands of colored men smoking cannabis, raping white women. And it was this real, real bad smear campaign, shortly after the turn of the century. And that's why cannabis is still to this day just now turning the corner on legalization and mainstream acceptance.
Wow.
It was a concerted corporate effort.
So he came up with the term marijuana and all that stuff just to kind of give people a different impression of it all.
Yeah. To put a racist bent on it to people, jazz musicians would smoke reefers, and just some of the filth that you read saying about they give these reefers to white women and make them impure because then white women want to be with colored people, and just horrible shit of the time. And Rob will tell you he's read all this, he knows.
Yeah, and by the way, this is a great time to be coming out with my line of cannabis products, which I'm launching right now. We're we did a soft launch where over the next 3 months, well, it's almost fucking June now, but anyway, over the summer there's a multi-state rollout plan that I can't necessarily detail which states and when, but you'll hear me promoting it, talking about it a lot, because we have a real professional team that includes a publicity department, which, as a matter of fact, they actually reached out to MVP before I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had to hit up Rob. Hey, are these people for real? Do they really represent you?
How about that?
Well, Rob, once you get that off the ground, man, make sure I got a care package, man, so I can help cross promote, man.
Well, yeah. Let me tell you, it's going to be THC products as well as CBD, as well as Delta 9, and it's going to be, gummies, flour, pre-roll, drinks, all kinds of shit, merchandise as well. But what he just showed you, RVD420.com. It might just say coming soon. Still, right now they said so. You got to check back with it because of some transition of the domain or site or some shit. I don't know. But also on the CBD side, it's damngoodscbd.com, which
I'll be sure to put it in the description too of the show, this episode too.
I think they're taking pre-orders on some of the gummy products and stuff. But anyway, right now, like every day, shit is being updated, and so pretty stoked. And like MV was just saying, just recently, since Nixon made the Controlled Substance Act in 1970, which is when I was born, that fucking long ago, and that was a long time ago. My entire life It's been cannabis has been a Schedule 1 controlled substance.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And cannabis is on the same level with meth.
What?
That's unbelievable.
Well, all right, meth and cocaine are Schedule 2. And now
Meth is Schedule 2? I thought it was Schedule 1 because there's no medicinal. Schedule 1 is no medicinal use, right? Is that
value and also more harmful to you and society. And meth and cocaine are Schedule 2.
Think about that. You smoke it. I don't know anybody that has ever. Well,
but I mean, most of that shit started as medicine. You know,
yeah.
Heroin was in cough syrup, and
cocaine was widely accepted. It was touted. You had medical professionals talking about how great cocaine was for you. You know, yeah. But I say this: I have never heard of any guy that felt the need to suck a dick for a joint. You know, lots of people get to the point where they're sucking a dick for crack or taking an alley for meth.
Yeah, they should rate it on that, huh?
Yeah. The dick sucking level.
Have you ever? Do you need it so bad that you're willing to go in an alley and suck some dick for it? I have never heard of any dude sucking a dick for a joint. You know, like
yeah. So
MVP, MVP, I thought you're. Oh, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they moved it to a Schedule cannabis. By the way, I keep saying it, just in case you don't know what we're talking about. They moved cannabis to a Schedule 3, which will take a while to go, till everything's changed. But that's prescribable medicine, and I think one thing I'm expecting and looking forward to is a change up in the education. So people will be taught that it is something different. I was taught in school way back in the 70s and 80s that marijuana was like heroin and PCP, and that is all Schedule 1, but it's a hallucinogenic, and they would show us videos of people freaking out, rip their skin off and shit.
Yeah.
And they, yeah.
And it's crazy for me because Rob, I was born in 73, so I'm just a little behind you. And my dad was a cop in Miami in 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. And he used to smoke weed all the time. Like he had a shoebox of fucking Mexican brick under his bed, Quaaludes on the nightstand, coke on the fucking table. And the weekends at his house, I'd see the same people that I see in the squad patrol cars during the week with my dad are at his apartment on the weekend, and they're playing some Parliament Funkadelic and smoking joints and passing the plate around. And I'd be in the car. My father had a black Lincoln Continental, and we'd be bouncing around in the front seat, and he'd be smoking a joint. And I'm watching my dad, who's a cop, smoke a joint, and my aunts and uncles would be all in the room in the weekend. But I go to school and I'm being told, "This will kill you. It'll." He's doing it and he's not. I'm seeing all these cops. So I had a very interesting and confusing education about cannabis.
It wasn't my parents, but it was my role models that liked weed that really changed my perspective on it. The wrestlers, like, look, they're in great condition. Look at them, and they like weed. Like, that doesn't sound like what I was taught, So, yeah. And I wanted to be like them,
Right.
So,
yeah.
So.
Absolutely. MVP, when you were oh no, go ahead, Rob.
I gotta ask though, in Miami, where was your dad a cop during like the Cuban crisis and was he part of
Yeah. During the Cuban boat lift, the Mariel boat lift, and then the Haitian boat lift. Yeah, he was a cop. I don't know when he started, but I know he started with county corrections in the 70s.
Griselda Blanco stories.
Oh yeah, no. By the time the Griselda Blanco stuff was going on, that Dayland Mall stuff, my father was already in uniform, and yeah, he was a cop at that point. But
wow.
Yeah, I wonder how close he was to that.
I don't know how close he was to that per se, but like it was the 80s in Miami. It was the Wild Wild West. Cocaine was literally falling out of the sky. Yeah. It was everywhere. Yeah, I grew up in Miami during that period. Every night watching the news. Then, somebody got machine gunned down. The first time I heard the term cocaine cowboys was my mother used it to refer to the Spanish dudes in our apartment complex that used to hang out at the payphone bank by the back parking lot. And I've told this story many times. I'm not exaggerating. It was a hallway that had a bank of payphones, and then there was a laundry room, and it led out to the parking lot behind our apartment building. And that's where the guys, would have their pagers and hang out by the phones. And I heard my mom refer to them as the cocaine cowboys. And no less than 2 or 3 times a week, I'd find little baggies of cocaine that fell out of somebody's pocket, that somebody left at the phone bank. And I told the story on my show, Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze. I have my own show. Drops Fridays on buzzer.com, all caps, BZZR.com, and the Mondays on YouTube at the Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze. I tell the story about when I was a little kid and I would find these little baggies of cocaine, and I knew what it was. I was a real precocious kid, and I remember some of the adults in the apartment building would be like, "Hey man, here, I'll give you a few dollars for that," and I'd give it to them, and they'd give me a few dollars. And I figured out, like, well, this is G.I. Joe money, man. If I find these little bags, there's like 2-3 dudes in the apartment complex that would give me money for it. And there were these guys, these frat brothers that lived in an apartment, like 5 apartments down from me and my little brother. Mm-hmm. And one day I gave them a bag, and they said they were going to give me the money, and they ripped me off. They didn't give me the money. And I'm like, I'm like 9. Yeah. And I'm pissed off. I keep knocking on the door. I hear them in there, but they won't open, And I started, like crying, like, man, they ripped me off. They took my money. And after that, when I would see them, I'm like, hey, I was like that little kid, $2. I want my $2, And they'd blow me off. And finally, I figured out, because we would play Cops and Robbers, Miami Vice, and I figured out that if you took some sugar and you took some flour and you mixed it up at the right proportions, in a bag, it looked like cocaine.
Yeah.
So I would do that and put it in little sandwich bags, and we would play, cops, and there's the cocaine, and So one day I put it in one of those little baggies, and I went to the door to one of those frat brothers, and I'm like, "Hey guys, you want to buy this?" And they were like, "Yeah." I said, "No, this time you got to give me the money first because you ripped me off last time. But this is a fat bag. You got to give me $10 or $20, whatever I asked them for." And right. They did, like, they took up a little collection. They came up with the money, and I gave it to them. And me and my little brother were laughing, and we split the money. And then later on, I remember the one guy. He was real tall, bald headed, like shredded, and he was nice, but I used to be kind of scared of him just because of how he looked, But he used to fuck with me a little bit playfully. And he came up to me, and I was scared, like I thought he was gonna do something to me. And he goes, "Y'all some badass little kids, man. Y'all some badass little kids." I'm like, wait a minute. Who's worse, the little kid that sold some fake cocaine, or you, the adult, buying fake cocaine from a 9-year-old?
From a little kid. Man, that's crazy.
Guys, I've had a great time. I really appreciate you having me, man. This has been an absolute blast. Let's do it again. Rob, I got to get you on my show when I get a chance, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime, just let me know. And you got anything you want to plug before?
Yeah, just my show, Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze. It's on the Buzzer platform, BZZR.com. It drops on Fridays, and then if you miss it there, you can sign up for Buzzer. You get it there on Friday. If not, you can get it on YouTube. Mondays at 1:00 Eastern, noon Central. The premise of the show is my good friend Dwayne Swayze, who's a Houston-based rapper. We've made some music together. I also rap. I've made some music. It's a fun hobby. And we'd be in the studio sometimes or hanging out, and he'd have a question. He'd be like, "Hey, Pete, what really happened?" Or, "Hey, can you tell me about that pay-per-view?" And one day I was like, "Dude, this is a show, man. Like you sit in the seat, and the fans live vicariously through you. And it's not a guest-based show, but we have guests sometimes. I've never wanted to be a slave to the guest, as I'm sure you guys know how that works,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to have
finding the balance. Yeah.
Yeah. So if when we have a guest, it's fun, but we don't rely on a guest. And Dwayne asks questions about wrestling, and I give him my insight or my opinion based on my over 20 years of experience. I've worked everywhere. I've worked every major company. I've worked there at one point or another. You know,
You worked with Chris Benoit in the rain in Mexico.
you remember that one, man?
Yeah.
That was like Paradise Alley, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I was amazed. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, that one I'll never forget. You know,
It was outside and the rain was just pouring, and
it was inside. But there was so many holes in the roof. It was like a bullfighting ring or some shit.
A tent or something with holes.
Yeah,
right?
and there was so many holes in it, like the rain was coming through, like there was no roof.
Jeez, that's wild.
Anyway, the lighting and everything, like he's talking about, made it look like a movie. And
I have a photo. I have a photo, and it's framed. And it like you were saying, the lighting in the rain. Me and Benoit are like forehead to forehead, you know, in that moment. And man, I want to say Lil Nate caught it. I believe it was him, but Charles Robinson. And it's a perfect photo. You can see the rain, you can see the lighting, and we're like, you know, head to head. You know, wow, man, what? That's one of the most amazing matches of my career because Steve Kern was still an agent. And at that time, that Mexico tour was right before WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, guys, go out there, give us a few minutes. Don't get hurt. You guys got a WrestleMania match coming up. Don't get hurt. So it wasn't long, but man, the ring was wet. It was one for the ages, man.
Man, that's amazing.
So yeah, I've had a lot of experience. I've been everywhere. I've done almost everything, and I get to talk about it on my show. And so far, fans seem to like it. And if you like wrestling conversation, real talk, join us on Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze on YouTube.
Hell yeah, I'll put the links in the description and in our YouTube in our podcast.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Hey, real quick, we had a quick super chat for you too, MVP. Ripshot, who does great stuff. Who would win in a fight? This is a tough one. Shelton or Bobby?
It's not that tough. If you ask me who would win in an amateur wrestling match, that would be a tough one. But if you ask me who would win in a fight, Bobby is a trained MMA fighter. Shelton is not a trained fighter. Shelton is one of the most phenomenal athletes I've ever met in my life. Shelton would dump virtually anybody on their head almost effortlessly. But Shelton's never trained to fight. Bobby has. And Bobby has 19 MMA fights to his credit. So, you know, a fight and a wrestling match are two different things. And a wrestling match, ooh, man, that's one that I couldn't tell you because both of those guys are elite wrestlers. But in a fight, the edge goes to Bobby because he's actually a professional fighter, whereas Shelton's not.
Yeah,
it'd be like two Marvel Avengers turning on each other.
That would be it'd be Iron Man and Captain America. Iron Man.
Yeah.
Right, 100%. Then somebody had a quick comment to MVP. Love your wrestling style, Rob. I super baked and went to Blueberry Hill. It was great. Thanks to Vegas next month. Excited to get some family here. Yeah, Blueberry Hill's amazing.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And then finally, we got Seth, who does our theme music. You heard the theme music at the beginning there, MVP. That's the guy. He says, RVD low-key has some best memory recall around without Herb. Maybe it has to do with being able to listen better than he doesn't power talk everybody like I do. By the way, I'm looking forward to RVD 420. So nice. Seth. Appreciate that. MVP, appreciate you too, man. This was great.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I had fun, man. Let's do it again.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I love you. I don't feel weird saying it.
Yeah.
Back at you, man.
All the best. Steal it in for life, man.
For life.
For life.
All right.
All right. Take care, boys.
Yep.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Van Dam.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on RVD.
Sure.
Yeah.
Boom.